And I would think that it would. I often, like I would like to right now, I would throw the controller when things would go awry, and I would blame myself. Like I would think, well, that's
You're a controller thrower?
a little bit, yeah.
I didn't know that about you, Chuck.
I think it started with track and field on the yeah. Sometimes you got to throw it. Sometimes you got to just get it out, get the demons out, and throw that thing against the wall.
So, Chuck, I feel like all you want to do is prosecute the Nintendo 64 gamepad. You just want to tear it up to pieces, put a noose around its neck, hang it from a tree, and walk away.
It's true.
And I don't know that I don't think that I feel that way anymore about it. I know we had a plan to tear down this controller, hate on it perhaps a little bit, but I don't feel the same anymore. And I don't know if I can do that. I might have to defend it.
Good luck. That's all I can say to that, because no.
While you bring prosecution upon this controller that forms part of our childhoods, I'm going to defend it in this court of new wave gaming.
Dude, this controller, it's like my kryptonite or something. You can't even throw it good. Like.
Welcome, gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs. This is the New Wave Gaming Podcast, and we do not discriminate. Except today, I think Chuck is going to discriminate the crap out of the Nintendo 64 controller. I'm Ovox.
And I'm ChukTomahawk. And I hate that controller.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. We hope you're doing great. Chuck, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Just getting crunk up here. Getting woke up good. Yeah. How about you?
I'm pretty good. It's quite cold down here. Sometimes, lately, it's kind of been strange to think that we're south of the Tropic of Cancer where we're at here, and it's really cold outside.
Yeah, sounds like you need a couple fortitude points over there.
Level up my fortitude a little bit.
I just got back from Minnesota, dude. My fortitude's at like 200 right now. Like, oof. It feels like summertime to me down here, brother.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you back, Chuck. And in fact, listeners, a big apology from Chuck and I. We missed the mark last weekend. We owed you an episode last weekend. We try to keep that 2-week interval going. But, as it is, life comes up and stuff like that. So we kind of had to step back last weekend. But here we are. Here we are with episode 20, and we wanted to make it a good one. And I'm sure you've you've probably spotted it from the name of the episode, which I haven't decided yet, but will by the time you hear this. We are talking about the Nintendo 64 controller.
Controller.
Yes, indeed. So, yes, welcome to the podcast. Apologies for missing last week, and we're back, and we're moving forward. We're going to keep these episodes coming strong. You know it. We love you all. We thank you for being here. If there's any new listeners tuning in for the first time, we're super stoked to have you here. I'm not going to go through the whole description. Basically, we like to talk about old things gaming, new things gaming, and how they've evolved over time, and how they've formed part of our childhood, our experiences, our nostalgia, and all that fun stuff. From a couple of gamers, regular dudes that have mixed feelings about this controller.
That's right. Industry experts. I like
Wink. Yeah, there were massive quotes there, air quotes.
Yeah. I got a conference call in Japan after this.
Controller sucks. Anyways, Chuck, where do you want to begin, man? Is there like a point where you kind of wanted to jump off? I mean, we could get all boring with it and just kind of describe the controller, just in case there's anyone out there that maybe doesn't have that image already burned in their mind or that's gotten their hands on it before. But
how many hands did they get on it? That's a good place to start.
Go ahead, make your first point.
I'd like to say, just to introduce it, like, everybody clap your hands and one of your neighbor's hands for the worst controller of all time, the N64 controller. Dude.
And you're putting emphasis on that con syllable because what are you trying to say? It's just a total conspiracy or a concoction of horribleness, or what are you trying to say?
It's like a focus group or something. Like, it's like we're going to try everything. See if something sticks to the wall. Yeah.
Well, do you have any personal experiences you want to open up with? Like, when? Hold on. What were you up to when this thing came out? Which came out in 1996. I think the Nintendo 64 is that when the whole console was released? I think that sounds about right.
I was in college. I was about 6 years out of high school there, and still working on my undergraduate degree. The sixth year, I think, and about to graduate. And I think I remember a mutual friend of ours that. He had a little apartment, and he had the N64, and I would go visit him, and that was probably my first. We had this tiny little studio apartment.
Who are we talking about? Just first name, if you want.
Alex.
Oh, right on. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Did you guys go get after it? What games were you playing?
GoldenEye and Hitman was a big one.
I remember that. Gosh, that's fun.
Dude, Hitman has that song Just Dropped In by Kenny Rogers in the first edition. A lot of people don't know, like, Kenny Rogers in the 60s was a whole different dude, like, instead of that country, sort of version that we're all familiar with, the gambler there. Yeah. Like, he had kind of like a 60s vibe kind of band going on called Kenny Rogers in the first edition, and they got a song called Just Dropped In. And that used to be in the starter of the Hitman, and I can, it's like, just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
Yeah, oh, man. Yeah, see? Look at all the joy this controller's bringing you, Chuck. How can you hate it?
Well, one thing you got to know is, like, Alex is real
the listeners
particular
can't
about
see
his
how
thing.
You just got. Yeah. They can't see how you just got.
It's good memories. I mean, because we're talking GoldenEye and these fun games, but what on earth is going on with this thing? Like,
describe it to us. I'll start. Let's describe it real quick. And we know, listeners, you've already, most of you probably have already had one of these bad boys in your hands. You know what we're talking about. But we got this large, great controller. It's it's kind of a larger size controller, I would say. For especially back then, it was definitely much larger than the controllers that we were all used to. The Super Nintendo controller, the Sega Genesis controller, the regular Nintendo controller, so on and so forth. So you got this kind of oval. What begins as like an oval-shaped gray controller, then as it comes down, it shoots into three arms. It kind of looks like a spaceship, if you will, or like it kind of looks like an upside-down X-wing, right? But with the wings kind of like with the wings in though, not X'd out.
Like
so it's kind of exactly like a trident.
Of a pole and like
exactly
control fish with it and shit.
Yeah. Hence all the memes about it being for a three-handed person. Right? For an alien or alien human type individual mutant with three arms or something. Using his right arm on one, his left arm on the other, and his nose on the middle one. You nasty. I can see you over there. No, I'm just playing. But anyway, so it's got that weird trident type of shape. And then, Chuck, you want to describe the button layout scene?
I can describe the controller, like, the best way I can describe it is, like, you ever, like, been in the house and, like, maybe the air conditioner wasn't on and it was kind of hot outside and you wanted to, like, open the door and the door won't stay open, like, and you start looking around for something to block that door up, door stop that thing. You know, like you see a pillow, you're like, nah, it's too.
Your stories
too
are just great. Tell you, I can just grab that thing. Yeah, I know. Just oh, that's too.
Yeah, and that's before you put the rumble pack in it. Once the rumble pack is in it, you know,
Chuck, everything you're saying is innovative stuff, man. That rumble pack is an innovative aspect of this controller, man. It paved the way for the future. It's more than a doorstop.
Dude, I mean, it. I feel like you know you've got when technology comes forward, like there needs to be a quality, you know, sort of piece of useful equipment there, but there also needs to be someone that says, how can we make this look cool?
Or like, yeah, like, hey guys, hey. Like just putting his, you can't see me, listeners, but I'm like putting my hands up, like when you're trying to calm a vicious animal. It's about to, hey guys, everything's good here, but let's just, hey.
We got too many buttons.
Take a third look at this thing real quick.
It's like, yeah, we quit labeling buttons. We put so many on here.
I mean, you got a Z button?
Yeah. We're in double A.
Guys, let's take a fourth look here. Z buttons? No, yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it. You know, it in all seriousness, like the buttons, I guess I assume like there's kind of different modes or something you're supposed to be in, like which is never explained in any game. Like it's really just up to you to figure out what the best way to hold it is. And
yeah,
you know, I feel like it's already hurting there, but when you add that rumble pack, it's so heavy and clunky. And
man, see, but okay, yeah. I mean, you're right. And real quick though, just to finish off the layout, just for anyone that's possibly hasn't seen one of these, and you can obviously go online and see pictures of them and stuff. But there's also there's one analog stick in the middle, which we're gonna talk probably a lot about. I mean, we have to. It's part of the whole controversy. You got one analog stick, which is arguably analog. I mean, I saw some videos there on the YouTube where they were kind of arguing about whether it's not actually analog. And then we have 10 digital buttons.
But I mean, it can't even be an analog stick. Like it's like it's digital, possibly. Like we don't know.
We're gonna dive into that. We're gonna dive into that.
Yeah.
Hold your caballos, hermano.
Already got an identity crisis. It's got a digital analog stick.
but does it? So we got 10 digital buttons. Those are A, B, C up, C down, C left, C right, L, R, Z, and start. And then there's a digital D-pad.
KLMNOP.
Yeah. R-A-S-T-U. I know. Came with a controller port, accessories, get a controller pack, rumble pack, transfer pack. The predecessor was the Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller, and its successor was the GameCube controller. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Wikipedia, for lending your information to us. We appreciate that. So that's kind of just the general description of the controller. And I think, is it fair to say, Chuck, that it is a milestone, a nostalgic, like there's a lot of memories. It's a part of our gaming DNA individually. Is it fair to say that?
It exists.
Do you not have warm
it does exist.
memories formed around that controller?
Acknowledge its existence. I will acknowledge that it did happen. It's like Nintendo had a really good controller with the Super NES. It was compact. It was versatile, durable, did everything you needed it to do. And then they decided, let's put 3 legs on that.
Well, it's more than that, man. See, here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Let's break this down. We're talking about the early 90s, mid 90s. Let's just talk about the decade of the 90s. There was a lot going on in the gaming world, dude, and Nintendo was on top. Nintendo was killing it, right? They were doing good. But they also had a huge battle going with Sega, it seemed like. I think the Sega Genesis was, do we have that data point anywhere around there? What time did the Sega Genesis come out? Chuck, can you pull that up real quick? You want me to pull it up? Let's just...
I think it's right around the same time. I'm going to say it was out maybe a year or so. And it had that controller that had all them crazy buttons on there. Like it had quite a few buttons as well. I think it's one of the things that inspired him to button this one on up.
Button it up. Let's see. It came out in 1989. It came out way... Well, okay, so what I'm saying here is that they had a lot going on. There was a lot of technology advancements, and Nintendo was on the tip of the spear, and they were experimenting with the 3D games and all of that. So I think they found themselves in a particularly transformative time. Like things were changing, and they needed to get this equipment. They had a new console out that was capable of the 64 bits, etc. They needed to get it out, and they needed a controller that would enable them to expand in both directions depending on what the world was about to do, which they didn't really have clear idea of. I don't think they, for example, I don't think that they expected that there would be so many third-party game developers that were going in the direction of like 3D games, right? True. And the thing is that kind of had an impact on ultimately like what side of the Nintendo 64 controller got used the most. Mm-hmm. Because in describing the controller, there's these three, hand grips, I guess we'll call it, the individual, what are they called? Like the horns on them?
Yeah.
You grab it by the horns? Like, the handles?
Maybe that's it. They were trying to bring in third-party developers, so they put three little sticks out there to wave them down, I guess, but... Nintendo had like in all seriousness, they were kind of not super third developer friendly because they sort of, I think they wanted to keep things a little more PG than say like you weren't going to see Mortal Kombat on the Nintendo at this time. Like Sega was kind of leading the way of more like adult versions of games.
I mean, you're right about that. But and that's always been the case with Nintendo. But let's see, because I'm pretty darn sure that that Mortal Kombat did come out on Nintendo 64. Not right away, but
probably didn't
like they had Turok. Do you remember Turok? Turok Dinosaur Hunter, dude. That game was definitely not chill Pete. Like those dinosaurs would just like ooze blood and stuff whenever, or the bad guys or whatever.
To be fair, yeah, Hitman wasn't exactly like a, super kid friendly when I think about it. But
you're also right. You're right. I do know what you're saying there.
Yeah, it definitely, sort of was an issue. I think like a little bit more than on the Sega, but
see, so that's another thing. Like in researching these topics, and that's part of the reason why I was saying, like, I don't know if I can hate on this controller so much. Like remember we were talking about that, because I also like, while I have experience of this controller being a pain in the butt, learning all this stuff about what the times and the way Nintendo was looking at it with design, and kind of like, because in the design, I know I'm not really getting to the point here. In the design, you can see that they're being aware of their competition, they're being aware of the changing technologies, and they're being aware of their fan base. And how are they being aware of these things? Because let's go back to the Sega deal. What made the Sega controller popular was that it had those like 6 buttons, and they were good at like for fighting games and stuff. Like having those 6 buttons enough to smash those buttons, that was really like attractive. And Nintendo addressed that. On the right side of the controller, it has, the C pad, like the 4 C buttons, and then the A and the B, that's 6. So they had that in mind. they had their community, their Nintendo community from the SNES in mind, because if you take away those, oops, sorry, I bumped the mic there. If you take away the 3 arms or the handles, you basically have a Super Nintendo controller still. So they're keeping that like psychological aspect in mind, like having that there. And then they're also like being very mindful that their own games that they're designing are going to be 3D games. So they literally create the first joystick, or not the first joystick, but the first controller. I think it was the first controller analog stick to be seen ever. So when I like saw all that, read it, saw it in videos, etc., the articles you sent me that I read, thank you again, by the way. We got a lot of this from, what was that page called? GameNerd.com?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. A lot of good videos out there. There's a channel called Nintendrew, which is like this young kid. He's obviously like obsessed with Nintendo and knows his stuff. So he had some great material. So just learning all this stuff is like, man, I gotta give him props, because I mean, think about that, man. They have the first analog stick.
I mean,
and then from there it was like,
but
boom! 1 year later comes the DualShock from PlayStation, but they weren't the first.
And we're still pretty much using that same controller. Like it was great. I mean, you can look at that thing and say, like, yeah, if I take this away from it, like it's something else. But if I take like the right things away from this rock outside, I've got a statue of David. But like, I'm not probably not gonna do it. Like,
let me read.
Wait,
first two.
Did I mention that this is the controller that shot Tupac? Like,
why did you? Where did that come from?
That? It's true. That's where it came from.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But what do you mean? I don't understand that.
Dude, just plugging it in will stop your pacemaker. I mean, you can't use this thing. It's cursed.
The controller?
Yeah.
Why do you... Okay, you're hitting it hard. Please, go... fill us in, man. Give us one horror story of your, why...
I think the best I can describe it.
No, like one of your experiences, like, because if the hatred comes from interactions you must have had, experiences you must have had where, it was like, oh gosh, this is horrible. I hate, like, do you have any,
To me, it's like I can play the game. I will say that, like, when I sat down and tried to play, 007, it's kind of like, it's almost as if I was playing Warzone, but my character has a crick in both sides of his neck, and like he can only face forward at all times. Like he can't look to the left or right. So I'm basically just, running around. But I loved the game. So the memory isn't so much like I was just going to make do. You could hand me any controller and I would have, tried to make that work. But like, do you remember, like, I think you talk about a time in your life when you didn't play video games, like the dark ages there where, at some point maybe like
the dark ages. Yes, indeed.
Like I remember like all of my friends being into video games when I was a kid. And then as we went through high school, like there were definitely some of us that stayed with it, but there are other people that, just like, I don't play with toys anymore. And I don't play with that toy either or whatever. So I feel like if one of those friends and some they all burst through the door, and if I had a choice of them seeing me with that nice, sleek, black, Sega controller versus this big old, weird, bright, day glow colored, clumsy thing, I would much rather be seen with the other one. Like there's a vibe that's just kind of that's crushing me. It's
well, I think all your two of the funny nicknames that Chuck found. I'm only going to name off 2 because we got a whole bunch more. 2 of them, the boomerang. And the doorstop.
What about the kid burner?
That's a good one because I had so, ladies and gentlemen, as you probably know, but just in case you don't, this controller is associated with blisters and burns and other friction-related injuries on the hands, and I would say any area of the hand up into the wrist, depending on how many burns you already had going from all of the rounds of Mario Party and what else, like Smash Bros. So
you
many
guys
different
didn't
games.
do that thing at recess, like where we would take an eraser and burn each other with it, like to see who was the toughest.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's
I already had
man.
those burns on me.
Just like, you ready? You ready? Yeah. And sometimes, like, if the person was good enough at it, they could actually get to be real hot, give you a little jump.
Oh yeah, dude. We were doing it we were doing that whole part on the skin, like where you'd like rub it was bad. Like there was a band.
Like on the nipple or something?
Kind of right on.
Right there where the decoloration starts?
It'd be right on the back of your hand, like on the top back of your hand.
Pretty far away from your nipple. You're like, sort of.
Yeah.
Kind of, but it's on the back of your
the
hand.
Same, but different.
Like, yeah, pretty much right there, but on your hand.
These are just like my other pants, except they're short and have stripes.
With a couple of zippers by the knees.
And they're shorts. No, I think we called those Indian burns, but yeah, dude, we would.
No, the Indian burn was when they'd grab your arm and go like that.
You're right.
Remember?
Yeah, the
and
twister.
They twist their hands around your arm in 2 different directions. Indian burn. Yeah. Some people would challenge you, be like, I that doesn't affect me. I can resist them. And you'd get some like, buff dude or something, or big guy that, could take it.
Oh, you end up crying in front of everybody.
Gosh, man. But hey,
did you guys have
those were the
pencil
days,
fights?
man.
Like where you'd hold your pencil sideways and smack it with the other guy's pen, like so you could break each other's pencil?
No.
Yeah, we did that until that one kid lost an eye. And
damn, dude, seriously?
No, but they acted like that's what was going to happen and made us stop.
There's an eraser on it.
It's like we had a ban on those first grade pencils. Remember those first grade pencils that were big as shit? Like, yeah, you take one of those to like just a regular old Ticonderoga.
I remember if you were a rich kid, you'd have one of those pencils that had the like clickable eraser that like would never run out of graphite.
Dude, those were the shit.
But that was like an upper class pencil right there.
There was a version in my time there where the whole pencil was like full of little plastic cartridges that had a little.
Oh yeah,
remember those?
Oh,
those were the shit,
dude. Yeah, man, those were like, man,
dude. At our school, they
you had
had
to go
a
to
little,
the city to find one of those.
Yeah, the city school, like right there at the office, like where the principal's office was. There was a little like storefront window of sorts, like kind of like the lady was behind the like a plastic thing there with a little circle where you could talk into, and you could go there before school and buy school supplies.
Oh
and
man,
they had all that shit like sitting out
save
on the
up for that
side.
shit.
Yeah, you're coming through.
He's like, you need like $1.99 for one of them pencils.
You come in and see like lunch is something you don't want, and you're like, I'm spending my lunch money this morning on pencils and freaking like little racer toppers, and
almost make it seem like we did good in school. We kind of we reached a Chuck point right there.
Yeah,
Let's get back to video games.
Totally relevant. Dude, I have this like nicknames. Like you don't have any nicknames for the N64 controller. I guess yours are all good.
I don't have any nicknames, man. I guess
the shocker.
The negative critiques that I have regarding this controller come for the most part, come out of a place of hindsight, looking back on it, like, gosh, now that I have a PlayStation 5 controller. Oh, sorry, I got the hiccups here. Now that I have a PlayStation 5 controller, or, now that we've had all, we've covered all this distance, and we know what our expectations of where they are with gaming. It's only natural for us to look back and go, damn, that controller really sucks ass, like, ay, 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 ¿qué estaban pensando? A la bestia. Whatever, whatever language, as it's been said in every language, because look, you got one analog stick only. Depending on what game you'd be playing, you'd be switching the grips. You could never really. I think one of the arguments is that you naturally want to be able to grip you want to be able to hit all the buttons while maintaining one single grip. And you can't do that on this controller. So I think that's a lot of where the hatred comes from, in terms of its having three little, arms or whatever. And I get that. But, it wasn't designed to be held, it wasn't designed to be every button accessible while holding one grip. It was designed to be held in one specific way depending on the game. So you wouldn't hold it the same way like playing GoldenEye as you would maybe playing, Mario. You know what I mean?
True. I almost feel like they kind of just say that after the fact. Like I think if in the little booklet that came with the game, if it said, hold this in the right side, configuration, or whatever you wanted to name, which way you were holding it, like position 1 or 2, 3, whatever you want to call it. Like if that had been made clear, I think there would have been
I'd be willing to bet money they did, man. I don't know. Maybe they did. I
wasn't big on reading the instructions. You're right, but I would venture to say that no. And I think anytime somebody picks up a controller, what do you do when you don't know what to do in a game? Like, let's just say, like, you're dropped out of a spaceship and you're seeing Mortal Kombat for the first time. You know what you do? I
always figured games out, man, and we always figured them out.
You know how I figured them out, though, is I hit all the buttons. And, for a while there, like you're playing a little bit of Street Fighter or something, and you're trying to figure out how to do that special move or something like that. You just kind of, like if you don't know what to do, and especially when you get like a non-gamer, like, you talk this girlfriend or whatever that's never played games into playing, like the first thing they do is hit all the buttons. And like, so I think any new player that picks this thing up assumes that you have to be using all these buttons. And so there's like a learning curve right there.
I see your angle, but I think the numbers would tell otherwise. I mean, because that thing sold remarkably well, and to the extent that lots of aftermarket, third-party controllers were crafted specifically to address the issues of the standard issue controller that comes with the with the Nintendo 64.
That's a great point. Like part of that point is like, when I buy an aftermarket PlayStation 5 controller, it almost looks identical to the regular PlayStation 5 controller. Just the fact that whenever a third-party controller is made for this thing, it doesn't look like this thing. Like no one ever says like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all, that's valid. In some of the aftermarket Nintendo 64 controllers, I think one of them was called the Super Pad or something, dude. It's bad. It's bad.
Is that the one they did the Kickstarter for? I saw a Kickstarter one. I forget exactly the name of the company, but people donated $166,000 to this company to make a usable N64 controller. I mean, that says a lot right there.
That says a lot.
There's a lot of lunch money in there.
Man, let me pull it up real quick. Because there is one particular controller that like everyone seems to be a big fan of. I just don't remember the name off the top of my head. But let's see. What's that one? The Brawler 64. Yeah, this one here.
Yeah.
The Brawler 64 wireless gamepad. Everyone was talking about this thing, and it makes sense. If you pull it up, you can bring it up there on the Googs. You'll find it. Brawler 64 wireless. I'm looking at a red one. I mean, it basically looks like a PlayStation 5 controller. It's got the same shape as a PlayStation 5 controller, effectively, but it has the Nintendo 64 buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obvious that the analog stick is much more sturdy and well built. You see that analog stick, man? It was one thing to get used to its placement, and this is where I gotta remove the hindsight, the retrospect thing, because now now I look at it and go, oh, that's weird that it doesn't have two analog sticks. But back then it wasn't weird. It was awesome because it was the first time there was ever an analog stick. So it wasn't weird for me back then. I got to be honest with myself about that characteristic. So I can't look at that negatively if I remove hindsight, because it was innovative and badass. But and I know everyone's going to agree with me here that has this critique. Even removing hindsight, I know, because I remember this as a kid. I remember going through enough Nintendo controllers that it took only about two, maybe even on the first one, that I, even as a kid, realized that it was a poor quality materials that the joystick was giving up quickly. And it didn't take me more than one or two controllers to be able to like conscientiously go like, okay, this is bad. This is, I love everything about all of this, but this analog stick has a poor, not design. The design's amazing, I think, and that's an opinion I've seen, that it's not about the design, it's about the materials and the execution. I completely agree with that, and I think the joystick is kind of like the prime example of, you guys had a great thing here, but the materials sucked and it break quickly. Give out quickly, wear and tear. Wouldn't take long for your controller to need to be replaced just because of the joystick.
Yeah, that as I'm thinking of that situation, like where, that time period where I'm, spending that quality time with the analog stick for the first time, you better enjoy that time while you got it, because you got it probably about a month, and that sucker's going to be broke dick, and it ain't even going to look broke. Like you're not going to know for sure that
it's just kind of going to flop to the side.
Yeah. It's going to be limp.
You know what I mean?
Little limp stick there. Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Well, it ain't going to just break out of there, so that's exactly what's wrong. You're still going to think that thing's working, and you're going to be sitting there, and it's like, oh yeah, let's play two-player.
Why is my character moving to the left, but I'm not even touching the stick?
Well, and it's like, that thing's broke dick and you had to buy another one, but you don't tell your buddy that comes over, and you're like, okay, here's your controller. Your player.
Oh, man. How many times I did that?
Here, Pepe Tortilla. Here's yours.
I know that controller doesn't work as well. Well,
yeah, use the force, Luke. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And so it would be such that you could buy it used, thinking it still worked, and it didn't. It ain't going to work. It's broke. And I would think that I often, like I would like to right now, I would throw the controller when things would go awry, and I would blame myself. Like I would think, well, that's
you're a controller thrower?
A little bit, yeah.
I didn't know that about you, Chuck.
I think it started with track and
true
field.
Confessions right here on the podcast live.
Yeah, sometimes you got to throw it. Sometimes you got to just get it out, get the demons out, and throw that thing against the wall.
Thank you for being honest with the listeners tonight, man. I didn't know you were a thrower.
Well, and you really didn't have to be a thrower like back in the days before wireless, because at some point, inevitably, I'd end up walking near the TV and get that thing hooked on my foot and end up yanking the whole system out of the its little cubby hole there. Ah!
Oh, man.
Yeah. Where's that zero insertion force on this thing? It would that connection would always hang tough and pull the whole damn Nintendo off of there. Well, and two, I feel like it's credited for bringing the rumble.
Dude, that's a huge thing, man. See, I know you got some love in there for the
I got a question for you. If we go on to play Warzone today on PlayStation 5, are you going to turn off the rumble, or are you going to leave that on?
Not only do I have the rumble turned off, but I also have all of the haptics turned off.
Exactly. What we figured out.
But that's only on Warzone because of the characteristics of
it makes
the style
it
of
worse.
No, it doesn't.
Dude.
Dude, that's hold on there, Chuck T. All right, and any you know this, so it's just, let's just agree that this is the truth. Warzone is a different kind of game, and so is DMZ. There's other players there, and you don't have time for rumble and everything. You need to be able to down the other player as quick as possible. Down them, and so you don't want to have haptics or rumble or motion blur or film grain. You need every frame per second you can get, and every split second counts. That's the only game that's like that. Not the only game, obviously, but that's the only genre style of game where I think those are legit settings that you should consider. Every other game I play, man, I love the rumble. I love the haptics. I love that it brings more immersion. So I congratulate the Nintendo 64 for being, the controller, Nintendo 64 itself, for being the pioneers in that. All right? You're giving me the evil line. I don't like it.
Because number one, you bring the same intensity that you bring to Warzone to every game I've ever played with you, number one. And number two...
That's a different subject. That's a different topic.
I feel like that you just described, you basically said that I don't have that on in Warzone because I'm focused on being the best I can be against some pretty stiff competition. That's every game. You're telling me you've got that on in Arc and that's... No.
Oh, yeah. All of that stuff is on.
Well, okay. Let's just say it's on.
I'm not gonna
we're
lie
on
to you.
Aberration and there's an earthquake going on. And
it's so annoying.
And you're getting that rumble in your controller, are you sitting there thinking, oh my Lord, this is just like being in an earthquake. This is so immersive.
No, dude. I mean, I'm not. If I'm playing Ark, I'm probably thinking about whatever task I'm working on. But it definitely brings in a conscientious or subconscious immersiveness type of feeling going. Yeah, I feel it. I feel a little bit.
They tried.
Give me a little bit.
They tried, but. It's like I'm
being hit.
Man. I'm being hit by an RPG, and I get a little vibration in my hand, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is just like, I might have got some PTSD from that right there.
Yeah. ChukTomahawk hating.
No, I personally say that it was a good idea, and I'm sure back at that time I don't even know.
Are we talking about the PlayStation 5 now, or
is there a way to turn that off, other than unplugging that big clumsy thing out of the front of your controller? Because
that's how you turn it off. You just pull it out, and I think a lot of people did, and ultimately not put that thing in there because of how much it made it weigh. But you got to remember it was an add-on on the Nintendo 64, and I imagine some kids just simply didn't have the funds, or couldn't afford it, or that just ultimately didn't get the Rumble Pack or any of the add-ons that would go into the back of that thing.
Lucky them.
Jeez, man.
Well, and two, if let's say I do like the Rumble Pack, but I need to load my game from last time, so I got to stick the game pack, which AKA memory card, up in the controller there.
Stick it up in there.
Do I take it back out after I've loaded the game, or am I just shit out of luck? I got to just lump
Yeah,
it,
I think you just pull it out and then put in the next.
crash the whole system probably. Like,
No. I don't remember exactly how that all played out, but I think, they delivered, man. They delivered. The only thing they didn't deliver on was that damn analog stick that would break so quick.
that
And I don't want to hear any more hubbub.
Analog stick.
Let's talk about that. Is it an analog stick? Is it not an analog stick? Let me read this real quick here from the wiki, which is technically a cheat code for us whenever we come onto Google to get information. Make sure we're not just completely fabricating all this stuff for you, the listeners. Right, Chuck?
That's right. Just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts. Okay, hold on. Before that, let me go over here to it says, this is the wiki on the Nintendo 64 controller. It says, the Nintendo 64 controller, model number NUS-005, is the standard game controller for the Nintendo 64 home video game console. Manufactured and released by Nintendo on June 23, 1996 in Japan, in late 1996 in North America. It is the successor of the Nintendo... Okay, oh yeah, we got that. Is not... Where is it? 10... Oh yeah. And is designed in a M shape and features 10 buttons, one analog control stick, and a directional pad. So it says right there, quote, analog control stick. So I'm going to go over to what analog is now on the wiki. Analog stick. It says an analog stick, also known controller stick or thumbstick, is an input device for a controller that is used for two-dimensional input. An analog stick is a variation of a joystick consisting of a protrusion from the controller. Input is based on the position of this protrusion in relation to the default center position, while digital sticks rely on single electrical connections for movement. That right there is our Nintendo 64. I'm going to read that again real quick. Digital sticks rely on single electrical connections for movement. It says using internal digital electrical contacts for up, down, left, right. Analog sticks use continuous electrical activity running through potentiometers to measure the exact position of the stick within its full range of motion. That's the other one. Okay. So there it is. That's the answer. Okay, so digital sticks rely on the electrical connections, and analog sticks use continuous electrical activity running through potentiometers. So I'm torn. The one wiki says it's an analog stick. Here it says it's a digital stick. So let's just go with it. It's a digital stick, because the potentiometers is what we find on the DualShock released for the PlayStation. I think it was about a year later after the release of the Nintendo 64 controller. They use those potentiometers.
It makes sense. I think for me, I think of like planes or something, like say you've got the stick in a plane and it's either like hooked to sort of wires and little hydraulic accentuator, or what do they call those things? I want to say accentuator, but it's a little bit different word, but it's kind of a mechanical source. And then you've got fly by wire, where I move the stick in a certain way and it sends, like, goes through a motherboard computer type thing that makes those things happen. And it sounds like both of these are incredibly related to electronics, which yeah, so I think that's why it's a little muddy or whatever. Yeah. It's almost kind of like I kind of remember when the first cars, like when the steering, they said, this is like flying by wire versus it being sort of a mechanical analog reaction. So yeah, they both sound digital to me in this case, but
yep.
And I don't think that's what failed in it. It sounds like it was really just plastic, like not really having the durability that it needed.
They got a little cheap right there on that part. They wanted to save on money. Let's use the digital sticks instead of the potentiometers. Yeah. It backfired. Well, it didn't backfire really because it went well. But yeah, they had to get after that. All right. Mario Party caused so many injuries, Nintendo was sued and had to offer free gloves. Writes ChukTomahawk in our outline for this episode.
Well, one thing I
Explain
don't know
yourself,
much about,
Chuck.
what is Mario Party? Like maybe I should
What?
use a cheat code there. Like what's
Yeah, you better use a cheat code. We better bring that up before listeners come through the microphone and choke you out with a rear naked choke.
have you
blue
ever
belt
played
style?
it? Dang. Have you played the game?
Of course.
Well, do tell. Like what is it? You'll be able to tell better than me reading the definition of it. I am looking the definition up here, but
Yeah. Let's see here.
Mario Party. Mario Party is a party video game series featuring characters from the Mario franchise in which up to 4 local players or computer-controlled characters called CPUs compete in a board game, interspersed with mini-games. So
Dude. Okay. Chuck, I apologize. I don't think I did get into this one too much. I got into Smash Bros.
Okay, yeah. I didn't play a ton of Smash Bros, but I do know what it is. Mario Party
Super Smash
sounds
Bros,
more
yeah.
like it was aimed at a little bit younger age group.
Dude, anything Mario is kind of a younger age group, man. It ain't designed for us, middle-aged.
Late bloomers, failure to launch.
But yeah, man. I mean, same for. I think your note here about injury is what I was kind of talking about with just like burns on the hands, friction burns, blisters, cuts in severe cases. I was a victim of this, dude. Playing, Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat, some of those fighting games where you need to do the combos and you need to swoosh the deal to have them do the special power or whatever. And I definitely played a lot of Super Smash Brothers, and so I think that applies to a whole bunch of games. But yeah, I remember that something about the game getting sued, Nintendo getting sued, and that part of the settlement was that they made gloves accessible from that date onward, I think, and to whoever had a pre-purchase. If you just sent in like a request or some, obviously there was probably a formality or a process of doing it, but they would send you these gloves.
I bet those are collector's items these days.
I'm going to bring up a picture of those.
I'm having a memory of the controller, like one of the reasons that I don't like it sort of is I didn't care for the 3D Mario games. Like,
oh, that's right. Yeah, dude. I played the crap out of the 3D Mario game, the first one.
Yeah, I immediately longed to be back in the 2D, Mario. I still to this day, it's one of my favorite sort of things. It's like a different kind of gaming of sorts, and it definitely connects to, like my arcade loves as a kid. I think kind of being those 2D platformer games like that. But I remember like as we're talking about the analog stick, I remember associating that with the 3D game sort of. And I think it was one of the reasons that they brought it out. As I understand it, like one of the execs there at Nintendo was actually testing the controller on Super Mario 64, which correct me if I'm wrong, that is the 3D Mario, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I'm not saying I don't, like, at this point sort of see, some appeal to it, but I would rather be in a 2D Mario game anytime I get the chance.
What was your, probably like the third one or the second or third one, right? Where like Mario could fly and had the
Super
little
Mario
tail.
3, yeah, is
those,
way up there.
Yeah, those are some good games. I just found an extra part here on the wiki about the analog sticks. I don't know if I want to read through that again, though. It's basically just rehashing what we already talked about, so there's no need for that. But anyways, okay. They issued gloves for injuries, and that's something I definitely have memories of, is just, little burns on my hands, especially on my thumbs, just wearing my thumbs out until they were raw. Using other fingers as soon as I couldn't use my thumb, wearing them raw, using the next finger until all my fingers were raw. Did
you ever get in that case?
Thank goodness mom knew I was playing the damn video game. She'd have thought they were raw from something else, especially at that age, because that was right around that time frame,
You getting a personal Indian burn back there.
Yeah, right around that 13, 14 years old, right around there. No, how old was I in 1996? I was 9, 10 years old. No, I wasn't quite there yet. She knew they were video game burns.
It's coming there, for sure. But think about those gloves, I think that really, I was talking about that cool factor. It kind of goes in the
Mario Party gloves.
Yeah,
dude, I'm looking at them here on. I don't think these. Oh, there they are. No way.
Look too.
Look at these things. They're not bad, dude. They're nice gloves. They look like they just look like a regular, cut glove. Like they're cut right at the knuckles there for the rest of your fingers to.
Oh my God! It's like a weightlifting glove or something.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. Nah, those would have got you beat up at my school. Like if you wore those out, your time's coming at recess.
What's up, kid? You looking real tough there, huh? Why don't you come over here?
No, it's
I
the
like your
Nintendo
gloves.
Kid over here.
I like your gloves. Huh? Huh? Oh, that's funny. Okay, so man.
Can I interject a Chuck point?
Yeah.
Here? Did you hear the word on the street is there's another Mario brother that we haven't heard about? And if you play some of these old games in a widescreen mode, you can actually even see him there. He's kind of standing off to the side. He's like the third Mario brother.
Not Mario, not Luigi.
Not Wario. Wario's like his alter ego or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
could it be Yoshi with a costume? Playing tricks?
Could be.
He's capable of it. I feel like he's capable of that. I think you could
probably find a picture out there, though, that has Yoshi in it as well.
Where did you hear this, if I may?
On the interwebs.
The dark interwebs or the regular one?
Yeah, Pirate Bay. I was like, arr. Little known facts about Mario. Yeah, I'm going to throw a challenge out there for a future episode and our listeners to send in any information we've got on the third Mario brother. But I feel like his name starts with a B, possibly. And there's Giuseppe is also out there, but I think this is even different than Giuseppe.
Who's Giuseppe?
He kind of has a regular life. He doesn't really have beef with Bowser and all them. He's sort of he's just a regular.
Yeah, neutral.
I'm not even sure he's a plumber. I think he just does his thing.
Yeah,
podcaster possibly, content creator
these days. Yeah, he's probably on the talk. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm kind of what's it called? Titillated? I'm feeling a little titillated. I want to know more about this this third Mario brother.
I think his name might be Balugio. Balugio. Balugio.
You're actually you're not just messing with me. You're
No.
Sincere challenge to the listeners?
It is a sincere challenge to the listeners. Are there things that we don't know?
What is it you want them to send in, just specifically, because I'm going to look for it myself, Chuck. What are you asking of us?
I need more information about this Belugi, other Mario brothers besides
anything
Mario
leading
and
to
Luigi.
the capture or
Proof of existence.
Proof
yes.
of existence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to know more.
Where we can find him in the video game world.
Yeah, can we get him on for an interview possibly, and just see how you felt about this controller? Yeah.
We've asked him to come on to the podcast, but he doesn't want to accept an interview. What can I do?
It's a me, Mario.
He comes kicking down the door. It's a me, Belugio, or whatever you said his name was.
Yeah.
Mario is my hermano.
He like hates video games.
They told me this was a cooking podcast, not a video game podcast. I'm out of here.
Everywhere I go, video games. Video
Watch your language there, Belugio.
Belugio.
Is that really what you think his name is? Is that on the interwebs? Dude.
You know, like when things go wrong and that old time like horn, like in a old future movie, be like booga, booga.
Yeah, or like the old the oil tankers there. Yeah.
Booga.
Couple more nicknames, hot off the list from Chuck T. The Trident of Pain, the Shocker, the Juggler.
One in the pink and one in the stink. Is
Oh, dude.
Good
thing I put the
still got one to hold on to. One to work it. Can I borrow your controller? You don't want to borrow. You don't want to borrow that controller. Trust me.
He puts his arm on the wall. One of them. Leans on the wall. The kid burner, man, that one's funny. Because of the injury thing and the gloves, the lawsuit and all that.
Isotoner, like gets put more gloves on people than isotoner.
Gosh, it looks like we've gone through our outline that you got us here, Chuck. Just a little bit more. My best memories, I guess my memories really, as usual, go around GoldenEye 007 and having my very first-person shooter experiences with that analog stick on that game, and yes, it was only one analog stick, so
like having a crick in both sides of your neck.
Well, but you could still strafe and stuff. I mean, that's why the D-pad and the C buttons were there, to be able to compensate with that. So you could still, do it. You could still pull it off. And again, at that time, you got to remember that two sticks wasn't even like it wasn't even a thing in my brain, or anyone's, except for probably the people that were developing it at the time. So,
well, let's go back to when we first started playing Warzone together, and like occasionally, maybe you would die off in battle royale.
This says our memories, not like recent gaming. It's in your outline.
But like, remember when you first started watching, like occasionally we'd end up in that death cam situation where you had already passed on in a battle royale and I was still up, and you're like spectating me, like, did you see a lot of strafing going on? Did
I strafe all the time in Warzone.
Well, I'm not saying I don't now, but I'm pretty sure it started with you. Even though those abilities were there, and there's umpteen buttons that I can do that with now, like, I only started doing it when the competition got so intense in Warzone, and the potential of being shamed by Ovox was on the table. So back in these days, I've always been more of a just charge in, direct frontal assault kind of guy. Like, there's not a lot of strafing involved in that. Like, I like to, just go straight forward. And so I don't know that I was doing that when I was playing these games, and I'm not taking away from it, being valuable or a good idea, but I'm not sure that I was using it. So I one time this happened to me, dude. I have real life experience of having a crick in both sides of my neck, like the old one-sider. You can kind of turn your head one way. Mm-hmm. I woke up one morning, and the only way I could hold my head was like this. And I went into my dad, like into the bedroom where he was still in the bed. And I'm like, Dad, I've got a crick in both sides of my neck, and I'm literally crying. And he thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever saw in his life. Like, he was kind of in that, I'm still sleepy, I'm going to stay in the bed. He got up out of bed. Like, he was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be good. He's like, you're okay, son. And that's how I feel when I'm playing GoldenEye. Like, I feel like I can't move my head at all. Like, I have to move my entire body to be able to look, my attackers in the eye. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it just...
Then you weren't playing it correctly then, man. Or maybe you're remembering it wrong, because what you're saying is that there was no way for the character to spin their neck, right? That's what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
There was.
Independently of their body. The body had to go with it.
You mean the weapon? Because you can't do that. You can't do that in these games either. You can only do that in Rust. So again, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I think you're just hating hard. You're just hating. So my memory again is mostly formed around GoldenEye 007, which was great as long as the stick lasted, because it broke very quickly. I loved the Mario 64 was great. Ocarina of Time, great. And then where I got all of my burns in my hands were from Killer Instinct, from the Mortal Kombat games, and from Smash Bros. Oh, and Star Fox was great fun too. Dang. Star Fox was fun. Yeah, man, I'm sorry you felt the creak in your neck playing GoldenEye, man. You must have been missing out on those side buttons.
Well, yeah.
You were missing out on that side hustle.
That's true. I probably didn't use it to its full potential. And, I feel like, honestly, to be fair, obviously I'm being a little bit dramatic here, dramatic license for entertainment purposes. But I will say, like, I liked the fact that you could plug 4 of them in and play 4-player. That was a nice thing. And even though I made fun of it, I think the game pack where you could save things, that cartridges typically load faster than, say, like a memory card would, I think, or something more internally based would have. So there was good response with that, and ultimately you could save your game. Like which we talked about it in an entire episode. I feel like that's pretty early in that evolution of ability to do that. But
that's the thing. They really they paved the way in a lot of different ways for a lot of the things that we still see in controllers today. Because the rumble is now just standard issue, fully integrated within the controller that you're getting. That's not going to go away. They're only building upon it. When they released, I think, they've only expanded on it with haptics, which is crazy. Like, especially when I'm playing No Man's Sky, you can really feel the haptics. It's so cool, man. Like, No Man's Sky on the PlayStation 5 is a whole nother thing. Kind of like Ark, when we first loaded Ark up, and it was just like, whoa, this is like almost a brand new game. It seemed like same thing.
Speaking of haptics, have you saw the vest that they're making out there nowadays? Like it kind of looks like a flak jacket of sorts from the military, and
I haven't. The weirdest thing I've seen, and you can tell me about that jacket. The weirdest thing I've seen is something about playing video games using your mind. Like they connect a thing to your head.
What?
And you can. Yeah, dude. We could talk about that in an episode. And the jacket you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know you've been wanting to do an episode on peripherals. Chuck's been wanting to do an episode on peripherals, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know if you'd like to hear an episode on peripherals, and maybe mention a few. Hit us up on our email. We'll leave it at the end of the podcast. That would be fun to get your input. An episode on peripherals.
I think that feeling is even stronger after researching this. Like I'd forgotten about that glove thing, like kind of the
power glove, or what was it called?
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of
so 80s looking.
It is very 80s looking, but I love it when you go back to past times, like and look when they try to make something modern at that time, like what it looks like kind of, I would say I love mid-century modern architecture, like from the 50s, like what they, tried to envision as the future would look like.
Dude.
I love those things, and it's fun to look at that now.
Oh, it's so much fun. Yeah. Like I'd love to have a power glove, and I would never like even try to connect it to anything. Obviously like a Nintendo. But like connecting it to the toaster. I wonder if this will do anything.
Wonder how warm a toaster bath gets.
Plug it into my laptop here. See what it does. Just to have one and wear one, dude. It's so like RoboCopy, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it kind of reminds me of what Predator had, like when he.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have to watch that movie later on.
Got time to bleed. I love that.
Oh man, what a movie!
Yeah. I'm kind of looking. Can you think of any other ways, like say you really had a button that you had to push, and you need to get around the fact that you need 3 hands for this thing.
That never happened though. The games weren't designed that way.
I can't like bring a specific example, but I know I've saw the situation where the guy's got a hat on and he's kind of like taped a drumstick to his hat, to the very front of his hat.
Instead of using his
he's like just nerded out completely. I can totally identify with that. I think I told you last time about playing my headset being torn up and like literally taping it to my head, just like, because nobody's I'm the only one home, nobody's seeing it. It's like all about utility, and
yeah. Can I
Yeah.
get it to work?
Yeah. Yes, I can. Me and this
course I
roll of
can.
duct tape are gonna make this happen.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but
What I think we've covered most of the important stuff for this legendary controller. We talked about that infamous analog stick. We've talked about its infamous shape for the 3-handed mutant. We've talked about how it's paved the way for what we have today in terms of the vibration effect via the rumble pack, the analog stick implementation, which led to next generation iteration. This was a 5th generation, by the way. We didn't mention that. This is all 5th generation stuff.
One thing I think we haven't completely touched on are the buttons. I know we've mentioned them and that there's a number of them and you can't get to them all at once. But the fact that those C buttons are not labeled, I think is a problem. How that terminology had to just sort of be.
There's a C there.
And I heard that stood for camera, and
that's what it stands for.
And it's like looking around. I'm just saying that there could have been some labeling there, like 1, 2, 3, or 4, or something that maybe would have helped. And also that Z button, although like it is kind of like a mock-up of a gun, like you have an actual trigger. When you pull that Z button, you ask yourself, did I pull it? Like there's no like response. Like there's sort of
you can barely tell that it like.
Yeah.
I think I did it.
I'm out of like I just shot 13 times. Like holy shit! There's no I want to call it like report or sort of acknowledgement, like a click of some sort that tells me I have pushed it.
No feedback from the device.
Yeah. There's no like accountability.
Like,
in
well,
that
the
button.
Spring's definitely working, but
it's kind of soft. So there's a little something there, but if I'm being fair, and say instead of just trying to kind of drum up here a little bit, it's there. Like it is better than say me just pushing the A button as a fire button. Like it feels more like I'm pulling a trigger on a gun, and I think that's an improvement. And yeah, when I really think about it, I remember, one of the questions, like, as I was sort of looking at our experiences with it, and I tried to think back to my first time using it. Like I say, I think when I don't know the controls to a game and I don't want to take the time to read the information packet that came in there. Remember, I can't get on YouTube and look it up. Like I'm sure maybe there was a text, page or something that might have had some information, but, I've pretty much got a limited amount of resources to find this information out. I probably don't feel like doing it, so I'm just going to try to play. And when you try to play and you're mashing on that D-pad and those yellow buttons, and it turns out they don't have shit to do with that game, like it kind of is almost like a barrier to new players. Because if I do pick it up and I mash a few buttons and I get like a roundhouse kick, and I kick Alex across the room and we both start laughing, and I'm like, getting into like, I want to play more. But if I pick it up and like I'm pushing buttons and nothing's happening, I'm just kind of like, but those of us that love games are going to wade right through that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But,
and I got to be mindful that, when the Nintendo 64 came out and I was playing it, I was like, 10. By the time I got my hands on a Nintendo 64 of my own, I must have been like maybe 11. I don't remember exactly, but I was much, much younger, and like I was fully like ready to, I was very excited to get the Nintendo 64, because I remember, I had already seen a lot of video games and people with video game systems, and I remember the Nintendo 64 being one of the like important ones for me in my own life. And so I guess I was kind of just like, I wasn't gonna hate on anything. Like nothing was gonna bum me out, you know what I mean, at that time.
Word.
So like my mind wasn't even like, but that's because I was so young, because I was so excited to get one, because it was one of the more important ones for me as a very, very young kid. But I got to remember that at the same time, there were generations older than me that were also very excited for the Nintendo 64, but that had different expectations at that point. So I have to be mindful of that too, and be understanding that like it's easy for me to be like, oh yeah, and it's a great controller, and what do you mean like you didn't know how to use the buttons? What do you mean you didn't, I can say all that based off of my recollections, but it's important to be like mindful that no, like there were people that had already been gaming for years at that point and had like different expectations and different, different like like their own evolutions in gaming that would, make it not a very appealing controller.
Yeah, you have
layout,
that perspective,
setup, or anything.
Like I think it's you got a great point there when you think of how you looked at it at 10-year-old, but imagine you were 25, because that's what I was, and like so. I had
like, what the hell is this? Damn it!
I'm not saying I was like totally ashamed of our video game, but like this is a lot of like how a weekend night might go. Like, we would have word on the street that there was a party going on. There was some kind of band at this bar called the Casbah and all these things. And like, we would go over and we'd kind of start, maybe having a drink or two pre-gaming, or, talking about what we might do. And it might evolve into us just playing video games for the night, or, we might go out and do that. And yeah, it's just like I say, that there was almost this image of sorts like that. I felt like I was playing with the toy a little too much, where I didn't feel that as much with the Sega, although, all these are things about me. Like it's more, stuff in my mind, solely in my mind, obviously, but it still is my perspective or whatever. And I've gotten way over that now. Like, it don't bother me a bit that, like if somebody comes in and sees my game set up here, like I'm super proud of it. And
it's almost as if what you're describing was like, at that time when Nintendo had a competitor across the table, such as Sega, that was kind of catering to an image, or prosecuting an image, or whatever the wordage may be, like hey, we're for adults, we're not for kids. We're Nintendo's response to that, it almost seems like they said, "Yeah, sure," and they dug in to their image of via that controller, like because if they had Sega across the table, you know, with this, what was it Sega does with Nintendo, or was that? Am I getting that wrong? It was.
No, that's totally the same.
You know, like, and then they were catering to, you know, the tougher group, the more the cool kids in the school, the grown ups, you know, and then Nintendo, instead of trying to like get defensive and engage that and like fight back, they're just like, yeah, sure, take that. We're gonna continue to build on what we've always been, and they kind of dug in on their own way with and you know, released a control. I'm not saying this intentionally ties through, but they did. You know, that controller does look much more like a toy. You know, much more colorful, toyish.
It is colorful
for kids.
I heard that
for youngsters.
Each one is painted with the blood of 36 dragons, is what I heard. Like to get all those colors.
Jeez.
Yeah. No. You're totally understanding what I'm saying.
Did that make sense? That was kind of long-winded.
No,
but
like, that's exactly it.
Like I kind of see what you were saying because, you know, I remember that. I remember it was always like Sega or Nintendo. Well, Sega or Nintendo, and then when Nintendo and then it went to Nintendo and PlayStation kind of took that spot that Sega had as the more less toy-looking system, you know.
You know why? Like I remember this very distinctly. Like so we're in a scenario. Let's say we didn't play video games all night. We went out to the Casbah. We met some young ladies, and we invited them back to that. We could either go back to my place or Alex's place, and if you had the PlayStation, you could put CDs in the PlayStation and play music, and it also had like kind of a little equalizer thing that
you could play. I think you could play DVDs too, or
you could play.
That might have been later on the PlayStation 2.
It always had like some of that going for it.
Yeah.
But like I distinctly remember being in a situation where like it would have kind of maybe like we weren't going to just play video games in front of those girls, but it was like, you know, we put a CD in the video game machine, and it had an equalizer that went up on the TV that kind of went with the music, you know. So it was kind of cool, like you know, it was like you know, the girls are like, hey,
got this thing here, I can throw on some music.
Yeah, you know, I distinctly remember sitting there, you know, and kind of everyone just, you know, zoning out, marveling at the.
There's this new group. Have you heard of them? Yeah. Backstreet Boys. All the girls love them.
Yeah,
it just came out.
Yeah, I can't remember if the Sega CD allowed you to do that. Like it makes sense that it would have. Like that might have been the first place that you know kind of employed that, you know, kind of as a. Yeah, like kind of like a cool little technology thing I had going on in my apartment setup there, you know, college apartment type setup.
I don't remember if it was what the first CD for the Sega was, if it was the Sega Saturn or the Dreamcast. I don't remember.
It actually as I remembered, it was for the Genesis, but it was an expansion. And that's where that sewer shark game came with this expansion, and it you know how we've laughed about how that you could stack all that stuff up on like it had so many accessories you could make it into this transformer of sorts. The Sega CD actually connected to the side of it, and I'm pretty sure it was the first thing I had that actually played a CD, and you know
that's crazy.
Quickly followed by the PlayStation.
Damn.
Yeah, and you know there were no iPods or you know you didn't have all your music on your phone.
Long way out. No, that was a long way out.
So you actually had the old jewel case CD there that you popped open, and you know I'm sure we were probably rolling the devil's lettuce on, you know, the case right there in front of it all, and like yeah. So college
listening
days.
to a little Johnny Paycheck.
Just kidding. Little Lucas was a redneck. Yeah. No, those are good memories. I honestly, like I say, I sort of put on a persona of sorts to be against this, and I almost have to, because the games have so many good memories, and obviously, I have good memories of time we spent, in those apartments and stuff, kind of, having your first place of your own, kind of situation set up there.
Yep. Yeah. And it looks like, when did this happen? In October 2021, the Nintendo Switch released a Nintendo 64 controller?
Yeah, I kind of in our little sabbatical there last week, I was out of town and had my Switch with me and played it a little bit more, and I'm a little more familiar with that. They have something called Nintendo Online, and one part of it is where they've kind of re-released a lot of the Nintendo 64 games, and like each time they've done this for say the Super Nintendo or even going back to the original NES, they release a controller that is compatible with the Switch. Like it has Bluetooth compatibility. It'll have those extra little buttons that you need to make things happen on the Switch. And it's wireless. It's kind of like had a few, like obviously the stick's been revamped. It doesn't die on you and those kind of things. And so and these have been incredibly popular. Like they sell out like as soon as they go into stock. They're really hard to find. It's actually been out for, headed toward a couple years now. But I still think it's probably hard to just go pick one up, directly. Like you got to get it through like a second party, like through eBay or something. But
I saw some videos on it. It looks exactly like the original controller. Very similar. I think in the video I watched, the guy took like one of those measurement tools that does fine measurements, and like the buttons were pretty much exactly the same size, and the coloration was almost exactly the same, but it just there were some modifications to it to just make it more, just a better controller overall.
Yeah, and I don't know this for sure. I wonder if that allows you, if you can get on Nintendo Online and use this controller, and like, could we, if we both have that, could we play each other in GoldenEye right now? I wonder.
On what?
On the Switch. Like this Nintendo Online part has this area.
Oh, I'm not gonna get a Switch. No, man.
Why? Because it looks like a kid's toy, like this controller?
No, because I have plenty of video games. I don't need another. I've like, if anything, I'd rather you download No Man's Sky and let's start playing some of that too.
No.
Exactly. So no time for Switch. Besides, you're on Arc all day, anyways.
True. I did play some Arc on the Switch, and that was different. It was hard. It was hard. I couldn't see. I didn't have it hooked up to a TV. I was just playing it on the display, and oh my Lord, it was. I needed glasses to play. That's what I needed. But I still played.
Were you getting your butt kicked?
I did right away. Like I think I sent you a message. Like I
laughed so hard.
I spent it took it probably 30 minutes to download, and I was so stoked. I was telling my mom even about it, and kind of what I was about to do, and kind of explained a little bit of how the game worked. And like as soon as I get in there, like it literally, how he's like, oh, like kind of yawn, like waking up. Like immediately I hear like I kind of see like someone's name displayed over them, and I'm like, is that mine? And like it immediately is someone beating me with a bat. And he knocks me out, takes everything I have, which is nothing except a bunch of skins, and then he tries to like get me to join his tribe. But that was weird. Like that was one thing that happened. I kept getting approached by people that wanted me to join their tribe, and that rarely happens
on normal Arc.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Like
no,
that,
it rarely happens.
Yeah, but
right
it was still fun, and but it's definitely good to be back home on the real deal. PS5.
I think next time I go up and visit Pepe Tortilla, I'm gonna ask him to bust out his Nintendo 64 so we can get some rounds of GoldenEye in or something like that. He still has one there.
Nice.
Wrapped up, boxed up,
It's going to have to be a big box to get those controllers in there.
Yeah. We might, apparently we can use them as door stops. I don't get the door stop nickname, man. They don't look like doorstops. My favorite one out of all the nicknames that you busted out, my favorite one is the Trident of Pain. That's my favorite. I like that.
There is a thing like firefighters use as a doorstop that they actually put up on the top of the door that looks a lot like this. Like it's kind of like it's a jam of sorts. It's kind of like there were homemade ones I think for years, and I think there's actually manufactured ones now, that are used by more like structural firefighters. But that's the way I think I would use it. Like instead of like a traditional jammer up under there, I'd put it up on the top of the door between it and the wall, and I bet you I'd keep that door open from now on.
From now on, onward.
Onward is right. But yeah, man, it's super fun to be back and doing this. It was fun to research this, and I know I'll look at it different next time I do get a chance to play with one, and I'll maybe update our listeners on perspective at this point in my life. But
it's a controller that made history, and yes, the analog stick is chintzy, as some would say. It's just chintzy. It goes out real soon, doesn't last very long, and the design at first, at least, I mean, it all comes down. It's all subjective, right? This is just my opinion. It's all about what your opinion is, but in my opinion, it's a great controller, except for that stick goes out way too soon. Mm-hmm. That was the only grief I had with it. That was my only thing. What about you?
That's
final
fair.
Conclusion.
I think for me, it was the vibe. Like it was a little too kid-like for my 25-year-old self at that time. But as I look back at its place in history, and I also inevitably tie it to the Nintendo 64's place in history, and the fact that GoldenEye is part of that history. It's really good memories, and it's fun to sort of be the devil's advocate here and kind of examine it and have some strong opinions about it. But I'm not fully convinced that it's not actually cursed and probably bad juju.
No, I don't think it's cursed. But there's been crazier gaming stories out there.
That's right.
We don't know. Listeners, let us know what you think about the Nintendo 64 gamepad, a.k.a. Nintendo 64 controller. Let us know what you think, any fun memories you may have around it. Let us know if you want to hear, if you agree with Chuck and that an episode on peripherals would be fun. Any ideas about that, let us know. You can send us an email. That's probably an awesome way to get a hold of us directly at ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. That's ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. You could also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/New Wave Gaming Podcast. And we've got a YouTube channel as well if you like to listen to the episodes on YouTube instead. I think that's just youtube.com/NWG podcast.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll get our TikTok going again here soon. I've been in the process of moving and whatnot, and hadn't really done anything there lately, but I've got some new ideas.
You share some more stuff on Facebook too, man. Get on there.
I'll try to get out there for you
get
folks.
Active on there. Help me out on there, man.
If you guys want to see a pro at work in art, go check out our video there. Sniper.
Oh yeah. Everyone, Chuck got a really well. That was your first direct contact PvP kill, right? In Ark, where you were literally in armed fire with a PvP player.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. I'll put it up on It's on there. It's on our Facebook page. If you want to hear Chuck's reaction when he got his first PvP kill, I gotta say it was something to enjoy.
It was good times. Yeah,
God, it was funny.
Yeah. I certainly look forward to getting in on some more Ark, and I'm going to appreciate that PlayStation 5 controller even more, I think, after this episode.
Cool. Well, great podcasting with you, Chuck. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to episode 20.
Definitely thank all our listeners, and hope everyone has a good couple weeks, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Chuck.
I love you, brother.
Thanks, everybody. Adios.